So last night I did my Sunday thing, and then I said I would be reading this. So the guy, he's sharing his experience in his book, and he went by the name Chokecherry Gall Eagle. He lived in southern Alberta, but he went down to the States, and here it shows a picture of him with the elder that taught him. And it says, he is pictured here with the holy man, Grandfather Eagle Bear, Frank Foolscrow, and that's the book I showed you. At Grandfather's insistence, this photo was taken in the hand clasps of warrior peers. Grandson, when I am no longer here, this picture will speak for me. Show it. And I showed a book with Frank Foolscrow in the past. And back here it says, for the first time, a Native American teacher shares the core wisdom with people outside his culture. There are many books about Native American rituals and ceremonies, but until now many underlying teachings were not accessible to outsiders. In this fascinating book, Chokecherry Gall Eagle reveals the essence rather than the trappings of many Native American beliefs, having been given permission to share the teachings in this way. One time and one time only, he unveils his own process of discovering authentic insights into sacred knowledge. Whether you are seeking a deeper meaning in life, looking for a more balanced way to live, or primarily interested in exploring Native American traditions, this book will intrigue and enlighten you. With many anecdotes and remarked adventure stories, it will steer you away from the common illusion and pitfalls of false shamanism as it unfolds two powerful teachings. Fire teachings, how to live harmoniously amidst Earth's many creatures. Stone teachings, elevated insight discovered in life higher reaches of the mystic path. And so, like I say, this is again a picture of him when he was with the elder Frank Foolscrow, who was a Sioux medicine man. And in the Sioux, when these elders were medicine men, they call them holy. Wakan. They're holy. So in this book, in the contents, is the sacred, not sacred. In the first part, second, to generate light. Third, two roads, one truth. 4, the 4 directions. 5, here and now. 6, using power. 7, stone is perception. 8, medicine and rituals. 9, healing. 10, wholeness and oneness. 11 is the grand understanding. 12, Jesus and the native way. And he thanks his parents who let me go my own way. They did not understand. I recall and thank my brother John Alexander for showing me true courage in the face of death and life. Rest peacefully. I thank friends Brian and Myron, who tried to comfort me through the long cold years. Their attempt at least gave me hope for warmth as I survived. I thank my enemies and laugh. You have only made me stronger. And that's the way I look at life. I look at all my enemies, everybody. I don't care what kind of thoughts. Either pretend you're my friend or not, it doesn't matter. Every negative person, every thought in that makes me stronger. After 60 years on this planet, living, trying to learn, being pushed out by anything and everything, I'm like, it just makes me stronger. This book is dedicated to our grandchildren. Survival is more than just staying alive. Walk in dignity and spirit so that when the fading sun sets for the last time upon your life, as a mortal human being, your heart will sing your victories into the eternal winds, and your soul will know that your struggles have been worthwhile after all. Mikatoyas oisin, all my relations, my circle includes all creation. Mikaya oisoyas, we are all one, we are also the Great Spirit, we are the Star People. So I'm going to start at the introduction and I'm going to read. So, introduction. I was taught the old ways, yet I was not raised on the reservation. My family lived as much as possible in a dominant Western society. Since my earliest memories, I recall buffalo hunts and living in a teepee on the Central Plains at the turn of the 18th century. When I received my first bow and arrow, I taught my older brother the old childhood games. We would shoot 6 arrows right up into the air, then we would stand looking fiercely into each other's eyes as razor-sharp arrows thudded into the ground around us. When I was 11, I had my visionary experience. From a clear blue sky, a lone thundercloud came racing out of the west. It stopped above me, rumbling. I heard a voice say that I would be taught, but first I would have a dream. It is from the dream that we derive awareness of our latent spiritual abilities and any work we might do as part of our learning path. At the time of my 12th birthday, I grew seriously ill with double pneumonia. I recall the chills and the fever and then being hospitalized. When in the hospital, I passed in and out of awareness, lying in the bed. I suddenly became aware and lucid. It seemed that whatever was happening in my body was of little importance. I could sense and feel the world beyond the walls of the room, and I thought I must be dying as my awareness seemed to go further and further beyond those walls. I found myself standing atop a high mountain, fully aware. I knew I was 14 years old. I looked out across the land and sea and absorbed the peacefulness. When I became aware again of my immediate surroundings, I knew that I was now 16 years old. There was something standing next to me. I was told many things, including the knowledge of how to go beyond the tops of the mountains. My dream continued, taking me through the various ages throughout this whole experience. I also knew I was a 12-year-old boy laying in the hospital bed. I saw various people from some distance away. Later in life, I would realize them as good or bad people. Accordingly, I also saw a solitary man atop a distant mountain. He was a very old Sioux holy man, and he also saw me. We climbed different mountains, but we had reached the same heights. We therefore recognized something in each other. Later in life, I lived a while with that old holy man in Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Now, at more than 40 years of age, I still recognize events from the dream when I was a 12-year-old boy. When I came back into my body, I was told that my illness had just turned for the better and that I could go home the next day and rest there. I had been gone for several days. When the voice returned, it said that 6 such voices would teach me, each in turn. First, I must undertake the sacred fire teachings. These comprise knowledge of living in balance and harmonious life in the manifest realm. Requiring this, one would then reach out to touch the ethereal, to call the red road. The fire teachings took me 4 intense years, starting from the day I had the dream. When I finished this learning, I felt whole, completely perfect balance. I felt that nothing was lacking in me and that if I lived this way, I would always be at peace. My intention was to travel into the remaining wild areas of the north and just live in harmony with the natural world. My teachers offered me an alternative. My teachers said that I could choose to stay and continue learning. Since I did not feel anything lacking in me, I did not at first want to stay. However, it must have been foreordained, as they had convincingly reasoned at the ready. They explained that I could begin the formal learnings of mystic ways. They explained it is a dream of stone. These are fundamental perceptions that we can reach as human beings. My teacher said that in order to begin this path, I must set aside all the harmony and balance that I had acquired. I must begin over again. They explained that formal learnings would take me 10 years. Then 3.5 additional years would be added to the learning one particular consciousness. After this, a period like journeymanship would follow. In one way or other, all my teachers said to me, we are in the time of transition. Many old ways will go, many new ones will merge. So there is a need to understand the foundations. That is what my learnings have been. That is what I have to share. The teachings are not always A to B, in some strict logical progression. They jump around. That's life. I want to present facts as simply as I can. I do not want to write to create any mood. I could easily write only from my native self. This would then be another lucid dream symbol book. That does not cut it anymore. That is the moonlight realm. I hope to try to imprint a little ray of starlight, distant sunlight, drawing nearer and nearer. The formal search is for the rising sun of spiritual illumination and is called the Black Road. That's the one I talk about. The reason it is called the Black Road is not because its followers are evil, but rather because they dwell in spiritual darkness while seeking a higher light. It is a very, very painful struggle during which time no human comfort seems to reach our hearts. If we are content, we will seek no further. During the 14.5 years of formal learning, I had nothing to do with ritual, sacred objects, chants, songs, or smudges. All the teachings were given purely in spirit, with only a physical fire for the enactment. At the end of the 10-year learning, I arrived at a rising sun I had sought. I received my first eagle feather, symbolizing the ability to overlap manifest and ethereal realms. I also received my ceremonial knowledge of several strong medicine plants and began to practice medicine ways. In the following years, I traveled to the reservation of Uncle Mark, where I tended and eventually conducted ceremony. The first person on the reservation to adopt me in the native way was Mary. She said that I should be a son to her and she would be my mother. Later on, Helen also adopted me. It seemed only natural that Mary's father, the renowned holy man, Frank Foolscrow, should also take me as a grandson. We recognized each other. He was the old man on the other mountain. When I was 16, I was given my spiritual name. My teacher said it was who I would one day become. Then these learnings were complete. And this is Chokecherry Gall Eagle, this is his book and story, his teachings. And he worked with Frank Foolscrow, a Sioux medicine man. And like I say, you can buy these books. It's all there. Frank Foolscrow has all kinds of beautiful books with knowledge. And if you read them, like I say, it opens lots of doors. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Pam Raider. So I'm going to start chapter 1. Fire teachings are sacred. They were never meant to be secret. Light sparkling, slowly reflections, dancing water ripples, soft and quiet moonlight, and raging fires. The purpose of life is to generate light. Light is awareness. The spark of life is the spark of light. Some of us are drawn to the soft, still moonlight. Others find peace in the sparkling, dazzling, snowy reflections and other manifestations. No matter which of the four natural lights we are drawn to, we each are drawn to light and warmth. As the sun illuminates our daily lives, so too does the spiritual light illuminate and warm us. While the cold moon reflects sunlight back to illumine our dark night dreams, we become a little more aware through our dreaming. Lightning comes briefly like a sudden and powerful revelation. Only fire is directly in touch with the surface of the earth. The things that fire represent are the way to achieve harmony with physical creation and within ourselves. This is the light generated through the physical realm. Some people are drawn to the huge leaping flames, while others prefer the warm glow of hot coals. This reflects our nature, our character. But we each have within us a fire. It is composed of emotions, ego, and passion. Fire, the raging inferno, the dancing campfire, cuddled in love by the romantic fireplace, eating a meal cooked out of doors. There is a custom that men do, the cooking from time to time. Today on the reservation, the men will make the fire somewhere near the house. They will cook the family meal. It symbolizes that the way of the hunter, in touch with nature, nourishes the family and the whole people. It nourishes humankind to be in tune with the movements of nature and to be at one with it. As the young men cook and commune, they sit in a circular pattern around the fire. This symbolizes the timeless continuity of life and the renewable nature of creation. It also symbolizes renewal for the participant. We refresh ourselves in the company of others like ourselves. We share concern, experiences, and our harmony with the earth and each other. The circle. The round base of the teepee, the shape of the Sweat Lodge dome, the Sundance Lodge, the hole in the pipe, these are all circles. The first part of the sacred fire teachings, as I receive them, has to do with physical fire in the center of the circle of white stone. This is all within the circle of people. The people are in turn within the great circle of the horizon point marked by the four directions. This is all within the continuity of eternity and the whole universe itself. I come to know my many childhood teachers as Uncle Mark. He had me surround the fire with white stones because stones represent perception or reality or dreams. The stones are laid in a circle, symbolizing that teaching is something true for timeless eternity and concerns harmony. The stones are white to symbolize the purification that comes with touching timeless, harmonious, spiritual realizations. Picture yourself alone in deep wilderness. You are in the very heart of the wild, natural, and unspoiled world. There is no one else around, anywhere around. Would this frighten you? Imagine that you are alone in the wilderness, in the dark night. Do we not each sometimes fear the unknowns of the dark night? To be warmed, we have only to make a fire. Then we feel more secure and start to refresh ourselves in some degree of well-being. The flames warm our body and push back the dark night. Likewise, two lonely people kindle a fire of love and ease their isolation and fear of the dark unknown. Picture also that you are with a small group of people under these conditions in the wilderness. The fellowship of others help the fire to seem brighter and to push the dark night fear further back from you. It is the communing, harmony between people that does this. As you sit around the fire, cook a meal and share it. You laugh and tease, but you give each other dignity. Then you are sitting in the spiritual, mystical circle. When someone pushes others aside to sit near the fire, the person is demonstrating that he or she will not willingly afford dignity to others. They demand ego-centered attentions. We say that their inner fire is burning out of control. When someone sits further back than the rest of the circle, they are timid and afraid to share. They fear rejection or to be provided unworthy in some way or proved unworthy in some way. In both cases, fear is the motivation. It is fear to be tested and proved unworthy in some manner. If you fear the dark night, the vast unknown, you might react by throwing more wood on the inner fire. You might react by turning inwards into yourself too far. Therefore, I say that we must be willing to afford each other dignity, for only then can we live in dignity. The first part of the fire teachings concern harmony within the family group. This is the first intimate relationships among people. This can be the family that we belong with as a child. It may also be the family that we form as adults, sharing concerns, assisting each other, a willingness to accept who the other really are. All this creates a harmony within the family group. The warmth generated by this communal concern is an inner glow of satisfaction, contentment, and safety. This glow of light being generated, it is the same light as eternal illuminations of spirit realization. This is how it reflects through the physical. Its range is like the physical fire. Some fires are small and do not illuminate much of the night. Others are brighter and push the dark night further away from us. Compared with light that shines through all of creation, firelight might seem small. Yet it is the only light directly sitting on the earth, the only light inherent to the body level. It is the only light directly touching our mortal lives through body levels. This is where we begin to learn about light and harmony. When I received the first part of the teachings, it was during a family cookout over an open fire. It is the basis of ceremony and spiritual meanings, and literal fact match perfectly. During the cookout, my teacher placed me in ceremonial consciousness and imparted realizations to me. In later years, coming to a reservation, I realized that this was the ideal consciousness sought in vision quests. My teacher guided me to it frequently. I saw the relationships of the fully functional family. I saw the sharing, laughter, concerns, and love which generates a light through the warmth. In the world, we associate darkness with loneliness. It is cold isolation. Light is associated with love and harmony. Light eases the feeling of aloneness. It is a harmony. It is a song. It is a vibration that echoes through vibration. The roles of each family member may differ. One person might be a principal provider of material comforts. These may include housing, food, clothing, and other physical needs. Someone else in the family might provide spiritual comfort and be the rock around which the family gathers in troubled times. But the diversity of characters and personalities does not influence the harmony of the group, as long as each person is willing to afford dignity to the other. As we grow and mature, we begin to develop friendships with those who more closely share our interests. While families may be concerned for you, they are not necessarily interested in those aspects of life which attract you. Thus, we find people of like mind with whom to share more fully our interests. We retain the base of harmony and warmth that we have learned through family, but we extend this ability to generate light through friendship. As we mature, we will have been nourished by light, warmth, and harmony. We will have become a more complete person. As we grow in wholeness, we are really becoming balance. The parts of being that come into balance are body, mind, and heart. When we feel that kind of work generated by family and true friends, when our bodies are developed and in calm readiness for whatever life offers, and when mind is clear and untainted by the imbalance of uncontrolled lusts, cravings, and ego-centered desires, then spiritual awareness may enter in. This is the first part of the fire teaching. When we have achieved this state of wholeness, balance, having together, then we may become more spiritually aware in the realm. Then we are generating light. The first part of the fire teachings tell us that we must reach physical and emotional accord with others. It is physical or social harmony among people. When we reach emotional harmony with others, it generates warmth and thus light. It must be straight with others. We must be straight with others and honest. You cannot reach harmony if your relationship is based upon a lie. The first part of the teachings deal with striving to become more whole and complete through this warmth which generates light from within. The second part of the teachings deal with the change that comes to us when we are whole and complete. While the first teaching used a summer fire, set amidst the fullness of the earth and the fullness of physical sensations, the second teaching is a winter fire, set amidst the snow. This is the old age consciousness of a clear mind after passions have died. In the second teaching, the enactment was that I would choose a location and simply build a fire in the manner that appealed to me. Then I was to sit in harmony and a revelation should come to me. Contrary to all of my previous experiences, my teachers would not be assisting me to reach ceremonial consciousness. I would have to get there myself. I was 16 years old at the time. It was a solitary experience. I simply walked off alone and wandered until a place appealed to me. I chose the base of an old oak tree. It had once been burned in a grass fire. Much of its trunk was burned away and hollowed out, yet it lived and produced leaves and seeds each year. Its enduring qualities were an inspiration to me. Here I gathered the dead wood of intent to make my physical and inner fire. When we can calm the body, it should be perfectly resting and yet ready for action. We clear the mind of illusion, hopes, and wants. We feel the warmth of heart. Into the balance comes spiritual awareness. I built a very small fire on the frozen bare ground and sat close to it. As I approached ceremonial consciousness, I realized that my inner balance was reflecting to and from the natural world around me. I knew the oneness within the flowing patterns of the natural world. It seemed that this flowing movement must be the Great Spirit in all things. Perhaps it is the breath of the Creator, the breath of God. It was not an observer. I was not an observer, but fully realized my participation with the whole of creation. It was November and the cold ground was bare. As I reached different realizations, it suddenly began to snow furiously. Soon the whole world seemed to be white, swirling mass of harmony and oneness. I walked out into the storm, warmed by the inner feeling. Reaching these perceptions, my perception of myself also changed. A lot of things can be seen in their true smallness when weighed against the standards of oneness with the manifest world. The pettiness sometimes associated with purely physical existence can be erased here. The teachings have been about warmth and harmony so far. Now we come to generate more light, for we really do generate light. We call ourselves star people. We speak of star knowledge, like the sun. We can generate warmth and light. Some people who follow the mystical path will even learn to drop material form and to fly through the manifest as a sphere of very beautiful light. They are the little star people. There is also the medicine man associated with star people. At one of the first ceremonial sweat lodges that I attend, 6 of these little stars came in. They were each about 2 inches across and full 3-dimensional spheres. They flew around the lodge and the darkness was illuminated. I could not think of a more beautiful sight. I noticed that there seemed to be a song in the air, yet it was not audible to the ear. It was heard in the soul. It seemed to be their vibration and their harmony with creation which caused the song. I realized that their song was their relation to creation, both manifest and ethereal creation. Their different hues and colors blended to form a chord which resounded with all of creation as a sounding board. Whether we generate light as warmth with loved ones or attain an ethereal form of the sphere of light, consciousness generates light. The more aware and conscious that we are, the more light we are generating. Sacred light teachings set us firmly on this path. In life, we pass through stages of learning the harmonies. The balance of the second fire teaching is usually attained quite naturally in old age. As the raging passions of flesh have cooled, the mind is set free of distraction and illusion. It becomes clear. We feel the warmth and want to share it with our younger generation. This is the kindly old grandparent that we might become. We each have within us this capacity. The fire teachings are the way to naturally understand and perhaps speed up the process a little. When we have achieved the balance of the second teachings, we have touched the Great Spirit and the wholeness of the earth. This touching merges the individual self with the whole. The individual self is therefore changed. We can see the world as a whole thing, of which we are fully a part. At this time, we might begin to exhibit spiritual abilities. We might have seeings or dreams. The seat of spiritual power is approached in this way. For myself, this wholeness and completeness drew me towards wilderness. I resolved to walk northward and to wander the last unspoiled lands. I would take such shelter as I found, and what food was given. If it would be my fate to be eaten by the wild creatures, then so be it. I would die within the flowing patterns of the whole, and even my death would be complete. What I saw through touching the oneness is that upon dying, awareness opens and consciousness expands. The individual can see his or her relationship to spirit, the Great Spirit, the Holy Spirit. If the person has overemphasized ego and imbalance, they will weigh themselves against his oneness and find their reward accordingly. This does not mean that we have to be perfect people. We all make errors. It means that quality of heart and your intentions. It is the spark of goodness within. Certainly we kill every day. We kill creatures to eat them. We kill plants to eat them. Through pollution, we kill the rivers and the soil. We even harm the souls of our grandchildren through greedy acts. Yet it is the spark of goodness that grows to perhaps illuminate our souls. I have been with several people just as they were dying. I have seen how their conscience expands. Old native people who are prepared to die say they are climbing the mountain. This means that they are going as far as one can go in becoming aware of the spirit and yet remaining a while in the body. The question that we ponder as mystics is, if we are going to die with expanded awareness and elevated consciousness touching the spirit in all things, should we not strive to live that way? And so the mystic practice is the art of dying and of transcending. As we acquire balance through the knowledge of the fire teachings, we might exhibit spiritual abilities. We may have prophetic dreams, intuitions, seeings, or be empathic to the degree like the physical abilities of just knowing things. This is the red road that we talk about. This is the only red road. The red road is to live in harmony. The red road is to live in harmony. I got lost there. The red road leads to the discovering. I think I jumped here. Yeah, the red road. I'm just going to go back here. I lost somewhere. The question we ponder as mystics is, if we are going to die with expanded awareness and elevated consciousness, touching the spirit in all things, should we not strive to live that way? And so the mystic practices the art of dying and of transcending. As we acquire balance through the knowledge of the fire teachings, we might exhibit spiritual abilities. We may have prophetic dreams, intuition, seeing, or be empathic to the degree like the psychic ability of just knowing things. This is the red road that we talk about. This is the only red road. The red road is to live in harmony, wholeness, completeness, a good heart. This leads to generating light. By its nature, the red road leads to discovering spiritual abilities. This is also the bread of teachings that Christ gave to the people. This is the symbolic bread that he divided amongst many. I fully believe that he did this literally, but as his life was one long ceremony, it is also symbolic. The word that he gave the people was also this bread of how to be nourished in the body life by having a good heart, living with the Holy Spirit in all things. It is to generate light through the fire teachings. The wine that goes with the bread is the Holy Spirit, the ability to transcend earthly or mortal bounds. When Noah survived the flood, he planted grapes and made wine. Removing the clothing that represents custom and tradition, Noah sat naked in his tent. The tent symbolizes the reality that shelters us. Noah got drunk. He went beyond ordinary body awareness. He transcended. One way to describe Lakota Vision Quest is to say that they go beyond. So that's where you go beyond a certain point. And that's, you're trying to achieve these kinds of things. Oh, yeah. Dreamkeeper, I'm pretty sure I saw that movie. One way to describe Lakota Vision Quest is to say that we go beyond. The 12 apostles asked Jesus why he taught the public in parables and taught his close followers differently. He confirmed the level of mystic to them, and then sent them out to teach, to heal, and to perform miracles. He also told them that when a student has completed his or her learning, the student will know as much as the teacher and be on the same level. Those who truly follow Jesus might do what he did. He caused the fig tree to wither instantly, healed the lame, caused the blind to see. Jesus also taught his disciples to heal. The disciples said, "Be healed," and people were healed. Can the communion of saints be much different than the total uniting of consciousness modern mystics speaks of? Two separate people sharing one consciousness, communing. Christ knew what the others thought. He knew what was to come. The error that many people make is to forget that he was also a fleshly man. He had a body and emotions. One version of the Bible has Christ saying that he rose from the dead to show that not only are the saints holy, but that anyone born of woman can grow more holy. He came to teach us how to do that. That is what is meant by taking up your cross and being his follower, to strive to grow more holy. On the reservation, an inspiring mystic can often be criticized. People ask, "Why do you think you are crazy horse?" Others try to diminish the aspiring mystic because they feel that they themselves are not following the path that they should. To justify their lack of efforts, they try to bring you down to prove that no one else can do it. either. Do not be sidetracked by them. They are lost to themselves and would take you within if they could. Likewise, many say that we cannot be like Christ. They say that he was the only Son of God. Yet Jesus himself said that we can reach the same level when we complete our learnings. His disciples healed and taught. Jesus wanted us to follow his way actively, not as a passive observer. There is no such thing as a casual observer at ceremony. You are an active part of life and cannot deny it. Even Albert Einstein, studying light and the relationship between time and space, said that as you learn more about the universe, you cannot help but have a feeling like religiousness. Of course, of course, any mystic worth his or her salt knows that space is not rigid but flexible. This depends on the perception of time or reality. This is what interacts at every ceremony. One aspect of ceremony is that this fundament is embodied. I have been to sweat lodges where the whole lodge, a dome-shaped structure 7 feet in diameter, 4 feet high, suddenly lit up inside. The lodge expanded in size so that a tall man could stand up and not be able to touch the ceiling. There are mystics all around the world who have teleported their bodies and objects over great distances. Some mystics can split consciousness in 2 parts. They drop the body awareness and fly as free spirits. Some can leave their bodies in one place and generate a solid body in another place. This has been particularly documented in India, but Native American mystics also do it. When traveling as a sphere of light, you can generate this other body self. At the same time, far away in another place is the original body self. This original body self can be talking and walking. This is a different realization to deal with, and at first seems contradictive, the idea of one's whole self. Eventually it gives rise to understanding more of the true nature of time, spirit, and substance. All this can begin with the fire teachings. It is about generating light. We say that where modern society has gone wrong is to artificially produce a cold and an impersonal light to live by. This is symbolized by man-made lights. They in turn symbolize the idea that man can dominate or subjugate nature. You can use fire to light the night, and it is whole and complete. Harmony eases the dark loneliness of our mortal conditions. You can find warmth and light through harmony in others and within creation. The electric light symbolizes ego and domination. Man against nature. There is nothing so sad as a solitary person in a large city who feels lonely and turns on every electrical light in the place, desperately trying to get warm in their soul. The warmth comes from harmony within others. The society has made a cold and impersonal electrical light to live by. Such light can never warm us. The light that society lives by is man trying to separate himself from others, from nature, from eternity itself. It is flesh-orientated and ego-driven. That is a very cold and lonely light to try to live by. It is not natural, and like the electrical light bulb that symbolizes it, has no warmth to offer us. I do not mean that we must throw out all the electrical light bulbs, but the attitude they represent. It is the attitude or reality that is wrong. For those who argue if God did not want us to invent these things and to use them as we see fit, why did he give us the intellect to figure them out? The reply is that there is also a potential to commit sin. The Bible original sin is not sex. Indeed, God told mankind to be fruitful and multiply. Mankind ate the symbolic fruit of the tree at the center and gained knowledge of good or evil and evil. Prior to that, mankind lived in a Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit in all things, and perceived only wholeness. All acts were natural, and within the Garden of Eden, consciousness. This consciousness comes from being a part of the whole, generating light. Within the movements of the whole, in touch with the Holy Spirit or Great Spirit, we still kill creatures and eat and survive. We pick plants and we eat and survive. These acts are within the flow of the whole. We define ourselves and are still within the eternal circle of harmony with creation. There cannot even be a perception of a wrong act. If all of mankind lives this way, if we are balanced, you do not steal, rape, murder. If your consciousness is firmly established within the participation with the natural whole, you do not perceive the sin's existence. To be able to commit wrong acts, you must remove yourself from this participation with the harmonious whole. You must be separated from the breath of the Creator, the Great Spirit in all things. You must perceive yourself as separate from others, separate from society, separate from creation. You see yourself as an observer rather than an integral part of the whole. This is the knowledge of the tree at the center of the garden. The Creator therefore said, "Let us deny humankind eternal life, if they have knowledge of good and evil, so they are not as immortal gods." The clue in biblical accounts is that at first, there was only a Creator. Darkness, unknowing, covered the void. When the Creator said, "Let there be light," it meant, let there be awareness, the desire to create it, become it. According to the Bible, the source of physical light, sun, moon, stars, comes later on. So the first light was something other than physical light from the physical sun. And the light awareness was divided from darkness, unknowing. The Creator generated light by His intentions that it be so. And we are supposed to be made in His image. Another clue is that in the beginning, there was only a Creator. Out of the Creator intentions to create came all of manifestations and the spiritual realm. The Creator's intent and awareness became creation. Thus we say that we can perceive the Spirit that is in all things. It unifies seemingly separating things into a coherent whole. So I say that to dwell in darkness or in sin is to be outside the harmonious flow of the whole, the Great Spirit in all things, the Holy Spirit. It is to be outside the touch of God. So I'm going to read a little further, and then Cindy can come in, and you guys can ask questions, share things. Cindy is asking, is it freezing on you guys, or it's just her device? And it's going to get recorded, so it will be on our school. If you can't find this book or you just want to hear me read it. I'm trying to really focus on reading so I can get it really read. So if you listen to the book, you'll hear me reading instead of me talking really, really long in and out and breaking up and all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to get his version and things across. Okay, 2. Excuse me here, sorry. 2 is the purpose of life is to generate light. Part of generating light is to live in harmony. And that's what it's really about. Is what the light shines, what your light touches, what your light does. And that's why I say filling this up is really important with all the right things. When I was asked to undertake the 10-year path to learn the dreams of stones or fundamental perceptions, I was told that in the cosmic scheme of things, there is a place where fire teachings fit. According to my teachers, learning the stone dreams would validate the fire teachings. There are many paths to generate light, as there are individual people. What I must speak about here is my path. My teachers assured me that the major teachings are something that we each have in common as human beings. I will be telling about very powerful and mysterious things. I'm not meaning to impress you with my life. Rather, my hope is that you will be impressed with how magical and powerful life itself is. After all, I am just another man. The events I will describe from an overall pattern that took several decades of intense struggle to unfold. Some events were months apart, some were years apart. This is the black road that I speak about, and that's in my life. Things happened months apart, years apart, all kinds of stuff. And they were magical, powerful, mysterious things. And people showed up, and all kinds of experiences happened. And I'm on the black road, trying to find and bring the light into the world. But people want to extinguish the light instead of work with me to build and create it, change this world. The first notable event is the journey to void, a journey I took while living in Ontario. I centered my body, cleared my mental activity, and felt my heart. This is how it works. Through inner silencing, I wish to go somewhere. You silently yearn beyond mental thought words. You can intend to go somewhere specific, but what happens once there is left open and free. If you have no specific place chosen to go, you will go where Spirit wills. My intention was not to go specifically to the void. I wanted to get beyond manifest realms, into deep space. I ended up in the void. I felt myself being swept out of my body awareness, as when I was lying in the hospital bed as a boy. I found myself floating in darkness, deep and empty. Sensations came and went unbidden. There was no coherence in my awareness. I could not focus, but drifted, floating. Eons seemed to pass. I seemed to be moving, but how fast or through what? I could not tell. There was nothing to compare myself to indicate motion. From far away I sensed something approaching me, or I approached it. I saw spheres of light of different colors. This was the first time I ever had seen them. I was told in my young vision that I would encounter these spheres of light and assumed they were symbolic. They floated around me and encouraged me to go with them. I seemed better able to focus. I suddenly perceived the earth, but it was a dim shadow form. I perceived several historical events that formed a general pattern through our ages. When we reached my time, I could no longer perceive the earth. Instead, I saw something that looked like the sun being eclipsed by the earth or some other planet. It was like a corona of light with a round black disc blocking it from view. I tried to move past the planet to see the sun. It was the same view from every angle. The sphere told me to take this back with me. This meant that it is a medicine to ponder in the physical. I came back to the manifest realm and found myself floating in the room above my body. My body was not in repose or trance or resting. I was talking and moving around without me. I found it very unpleasant to have to go back into that limited confine again after flying freely, but I knew that I had to. When I settled into the body again, I was suddenly aware in both selves of everything each had been doing. For several days it seemed that part of me was numb or in shock at this. I could not even begin to ponder it or think about it at all. It took several years before I could understand the experience. My opinion of the concrete reality was shattered. In effect, I had been in two places at once. One of those places was the normal body realm. The other was the visionary dream place. but I was still aware of two different levels at once. The medicine that I had been given to ponder was a sun eclipse by the planet. The sun represents spiritual light. The planet observes the sun from all angles. Eventually, I concluded that manifest form itself blocks us from perceiving the spiritual light in all its glory. While living in body state only, we do not directly perceive the light. We see only the glimmering of the corona. It seems to me then that the thing that we must do is to break the chain that keeps us rooted only in the manifest realms. At the end of the first fire teaching, I saw the relationship between people and harmonious living. I observed the physical fire throughout these realizations as a 12-year-old boy. I noticed the smoke, I rose upwards, and I spread thinner and thinner until it seemingly merged with the air. I got so stretched out that it disappeared from sight. Though I could still smell it for some time, the point at which the smoke disappeared seemed to me like a dome of heaven, an invisible barrier to the eternal realms. Where does the smoke really go? But to merge with the wafting breeze, the breath of God, great spirit in all things. Where does our minds go upon the breath? But to merge with the Holy Spirit in all things. The harmony of the whole. Where does mind go when we die? Where does awareness go? What does it encounter? I was led to ponder this through the first fire teachings when I was 12. Our being rooted in material form is what shelters us from having this knowledge barrage us daily. This prevents ethereal awareness from disrupting all physical activities. If we do not live in harmony and light, craving and physical incitements build further walls to keep out ethereal and spiritual realizations. This is the knowledge of the earth eclipse, the sun in the great void. This does not mean that we must give up pleasures or sensations. It means that we can come to a consciousness where we rule passion and craving. They did not rule us. It means that we can transcend the limits of mortal form. Oh. Huh.
Instagram shut off again?
Yeah.
Maybe it's only allowing you to go an hour.
It says 0:11 remaining.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe they put a time limit on it. So I'm just going to read let's see, where's the next? Yeah, just up, say, 3 pages, and then Cindy can come in, and I'm going to stop. The Instagram keeps shutting off. It did that the other day. Now I think they're timing it to like an hour. The next teaching did not come for several years. I had taken many years to deal with the journey to the void, enough to carry on actively seeking. I did not fully understand until 10 years were over. I was very concerned with the nature of time and space, as it seemed to be in two places at once. Since my earliest memories, I recalled a life on the Central Plains. I knew what it was to be sheltered by the buffalo-hide teepee, and what a great blessing it was that for 3 years in a row there were no deaths or serious injuries during the buffalo hunts. Now, having found how to take these journeys, I decided to try to visit the location of that buffalo hunt, but I would do so in current times. I regarded this journey as vision or intense dream, did not have any opinions about its absolute reality. The journey began. I found myself standing on a small hill overlooking the same flat valley. Large hills rolled away into the distance, and behind me to one side were familiar high hills that looked dark blue from the distance. The prairie grass was brown under the clear blue skies, and small rivers dissected the valley. Across the flat there was a gentle slope between the hills where hunters drove the buffalo down onto the flats. I recall the roaring thunder of hooves ripping the earth as the herd was driven hard against the steep slopes of the hill. The hunters made their kill as they rode alongside the charging herd. I half expected to see and hear the buffalo come down the slope once more, and grew sad. I knew that this was never to be again. I began to pray and to send a voice, demanding to know where the buffalo way had gone and what would replace it for the people. The people need a way to live. There was suddenly a very old, thin native man beside me. He was dressed in modern clothes, jeans and plaid shirt. He identified himself by name and told where he lived when he was in body. I asked him where his valley was in the physical, and he told me how to find it if I started from the village of Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I knew then that was one of the 6 voices. I addressed him as grandfather. I asked him what would replace the buffalo way, or if it could ever come back again. He said it would never return, but he indicated for me to look at the black hills behind me. Though it was midday, there was a huge bright red sun about to set behind the hill. I began to watch it, fascinated in my life body. I had never before actually watched an entire sunset. Something in me seemed to be absorbed by the red sun setting. I somehow merged with it. I seemed empty of something I had carried. Since birth, and vacity was being filled with something nameless. When the red sun had completely set, I turned and looked for grandfather. He was gone. I pondered for a while how this sun could replace the way of the buffalo. Then I chose to return to the holy or to my body realm. Several weeks later, I had an intense urge to go to Algonquin Park in Ontario, Canada. There is a high granite cliff with a lookout point. I visited late in the afternoon. In the body realm, there was a huge red sun sitting over the high western hills that looked dark in the distance. The scene was similar to that in my journey. As I as I stared at the setting sun, completely fascinated by it, something seems to absorb me into it. I seemed empty of myself and was filling up with something lighter and more airier. As the last trace of the red set behind the hills, I turned and began to run as fast as I could down the narrow, slippery trail. It had rained earlier and the steep descent was muddy. I ran full out, using short, fast steps. A joy overcame me. Then something poured out in the headlong run. I negotiated the rocks, the trees, the roots, where one misstep could send me crashing head first over the cliff several hundred feet above the valley floor. I did not care in the least that one slip could easily cause my death. I poured myself out in the run. I began to feel myself filling up with something light and airy. I realized as I ran that I was being filled with the Spirit in all things. If I died, the wolves can eat my body. What matters, all that I could matter, was to pour out participation with that endless Spirit in all things. I felt reborn in that run. When I reached the base of the high hill, I wanted to go back up and do it again. But I knew that such things came in their own time and cannot be forced. In European writings, some have alluded to the teachings of the red sunset and have tried to make a mystery of it. There is no big secret, really. The sun is the light that we live by. The red sun is the fire sun of passion that we live under. It is the hot blood of physical living. For this red sun to have set upon our living means that we have surpassed the mortal conditions. We have certainly not become immortal. We can breach the barriers of mortal limitations. We can begin to sense while in body and awareness what lies in the beyond. Beyond is what is beyond strictly body limitations. We are more in touch with the spirit in all things. This should replace the buffalo way. According to my teacher, what was the buffalo way? Partly it was cooperation and harmony between people. In order to live together, tribal or village hunts were arranged. By making such hunts and sharing the bounty of the hunt, the village was given the means of material survival. Through the act of sharing and harmonious cooperation, the village was given the means of spiritual survival. As individual buffaloes merge with the whole herd to become something stronger than any individual, so too was consciousness and reality shared by the people to form a whole village, a tribal consciousness. Rules governed the hunt and communal living. Severe penalties were given to offenders. Death or banishment was possible. Sent weaponless and, more importantly, friendless into the vast prairies, one did not often survive. With the liberation of the red sunset, you share because that is now our personal way, not because you have to. No penalties are needed. Your nature is to cooperate and share, yet you do not give recklessly to those who purposely abuse your generosity. At the end of the first fire teachings, I watched the smoke dissipate into the whole. I realized that beyond this dome, like barrier, lies a spiritual or eternal realm. At the conclusion of the second teachings, I perceived that we ourselves can become aware of the spirit in all things and weigh the purity of heart against the wholeness. The teachings of the red sunset brings us to the activity or actively embrace the spirit in all things, not merely to glimpse it. I gradually became a parent of the realities are but dreams that we have or that we create. What makes one person into a lawyer while another becomes a bricklayer is twofold. It is partly inclination fostered by circumstances. Each person also lives within a slightly different worldview, and thus a slightly different view of self in relation to world. This is the dream they are having, because our worldview have so much in common. We can relate to others in our own society to some degree and get along. As one undertakes to learn ethereal matters, it becomes apparent that much more of our experience is but a dream that we are having. When I left my body and traveled around, it seemed to my free-flying spirit that I was real, and the inner core of consciousness. The first shock came when I returned to body and realized that I recall a continuous sequences of events during the time of my inner of awareness was gone. With the teaching of the red sunset, something that we dream was real is swept away, and new realization of self comes instead. Hope you're enjoying. Teaching the red sunset brings us to the activity embrace the spirit in all things, not merely to glimpse it. It gradually becomes apparent that realities are but dreams that we have or that we create. What makes one person into a lawyer while another becomes a bricklayer is twofold. It is partially inclination fostered by circumstances. Each person also lives within a slightly different worldview, and thus a slightly different view of self in relation to the world. This is the dreams they are having. Because our worldviews have so much in common, we can relate to others in our own society to some degree and get along. As one undertakes to learn ethereal matters, it becomes apparent that much more of our experience is but a dream that we are having. When I left my body and traveled around, it seemed to my free-flying spirit that I was real, the inner core of consciousness. The first shock came when I returned to the body and realized I recalled a continuous sequence of events during the time my inner core awareness was gone. With the teachings of the red sunset, something that we dream was real is swept away and new realization of self comes instead. So he had a really profound experience in that. After I had spent several years incorporating the teachings into my daily life, I was shown that I should move to Toronto, Ontario. I did not like large cities, but I had to be there for the next teaching. I found a cooperative house in which I had my own room and shared the rest of the house. Eventually, I found a job. In my prayers, I was being led towards surrendering more of the things that somehow define me as who I am. I found this terribly difficult to do, afraid, as we all are, that without these definitions of self, I would somehow no longer be me. During my prayers and sitting in silence, I suddenly noticed that I was watching seagulls swooping through the air in front of a factory across the street, but my face was turned away from the bay window. When I turned around, the gulls were just as I had seen them. I felt that if the strange perception continued, this surrounding of self to spirit would come. I did not feel ready at all for this. I asked for a specific sign. Rarely do we ask for signs, and never do we demand that one particular sign come as we wish it to be. But I wanted everything to be absolutely clear that the sign was genuine. There was a misunderstanding through meaningless coincidence. Though I knew only several people in the city of a million, I asked that an eagle feather be given to me within 24 hours. This is what happened. I would know for sure it was a sign I sought. No mistakes could happen. I would then trust and let go of these parts of personality and ego-defined self. The next morning, just after 7 a.m., someone knocked at the front door. It was a man I had spoken to several times. He handed me something wrapped in a newspaper. I opened it and found an eagle feather with a quill wrapped ceremonially in a brain-tanned leather. "You can make better use of it than me," he said. "How did you know to give me a feather?" I asked in surprise. When you give feathers yourself, you will know that. Where did this feather come from?" "From a roadside eagle feather stand in Arizona." "No, really." "You can't ask that. Lessens the mystery," he smiled. He seemed gravely concerned that this particular feather be treated respectfully. He said that he would like to return in 4 days, a sacred period of time. I began to hold the feather while sitting in a silent harmony in the Great Spirit. I felt myself looking away at once again. I did not know what this meant, but I knew it was something very fundamental. Slowly it seemed that I was taking the journey, but still fully in body. I had all the same perceptions and feelings as when taking the journey. But while in body, I reached a place where it seemed I could go no further, or perhaps would go no further through some inner choice. I began to pray intensely to breach this barrier to mortal perception. A voice spoke to me, saying in pure light, "Move ahead, the way is clear." Something in me seemed to burst open, my awareness seemed to soar. A calm settled over me, a nothingness. I heard wings beating. They were not audible to the ear, however I heard them. My eyes popped open wide and I gasped for breath as something slammed into my chest. Each side of my chest was caught in the vice-like grip, tugging at me and trying to lift me upwards higher and higher. I let go and was lifted. I suddenly knew the spirit eagle had gripped my chest in its talons and was lifting me. I discovered in later years that this is a mystical sun dance upon which the annual ceremony of the plains is based. My eyes were open and I was looking out the bay window at the treetops and sky beyond. A point of yellow light appears in the sky and grew at tremendous rate. It quickly filled the sky and touched all of creation. The very air seemed to be a golden yellow substance. I was a golden yellow light substance. My breathing seemed to be the inhalation, exhalation of creation itself, of this God, Great Spirit. My body seemed to be a dream. that I was having. My life seemed to be a dream I once had. I wish to know where in creation I was, I replied. The reply was, I instantly saw the room from a distant perspective. I was looking at the place where I had just been sitting. My body seemed just instantly to be across the room. I had no time for surprise because I was suddenly looking from another perspective, and another, and another. Then I was back where I started. I felt great peace and contentment, did not understand with intellect, but this transporting around the room explained everything to me. I was content, serene. I felt like I was floating in the void, yet was also in the body. Rather than being in two realms at once, I had become aware of two realms touching through the golden yellow light. In later days, I came to understand that my body seemed to be transported to each of the four directions. Regarding the center from each direction, I sat at the center. At the center, which lies the midpoint between the manifest and ethereal realms, is the golden yellow light of spiritual illumination. It is the rising sun I had sought for 10 years, almost to the very day. The light filled the world and filled me, but though I had found the rising sun, I still not truly know where it came from or what caused it to be there, or to be. In the next 4 days of holding the feather while sitting in silence, I received my ceremony knowledge of several important herbs and other gifts of spirit. I begun to see some events to come and sat all day with the feather. This was too important to worry about material things. I lost my job. I could not pay my rent and eventually had to trade my services for labor for back rent. I had no money for food, and for days I did not eat. But before that happened, the man who had brought me the feather returned on the fourth day. He asked several specific questions, and I realized that he had not yet reached this level. I told him several of the things that I had seen in the vision of the future, but did not answer his questions. I realized that what transpires to the seer is private. He had not come to me for help with the problem. He just seemed nosy and wanted to hear what happens with the feather. It seemed to me that he was delegated to bring the feather, but was curious about the whole thing. It was soon after this that I began to visit the reservation of Uncle Mark, and I knew that I should receive the next teachings there. However, two elderly men objected to my complexion being a little too pale for their personal taste and did everything they could to block me. Being raised without such concerns, I was an innocent to their manipulation. When it became clear that the next teaching was just not going to happen, I was rather at a loss. Now what? If we are to learn, a way will be found. One evening back in Ontario, I became aware of a strange man talking to me over a distance. He said that he was sitting in the midwinter ceremony, told me exactly where this was. He said that the medicine woman present had a vision that this man speaking should hold a very particular ceremony for my benefit. Certain teaching tales would be told, the ceremony would be held. It would be in several weeks at the house of a mutual friend on a different reservation. Having learned the hard way to be skeptical, I asked if this mutual friend was also a midwinter ceremony. When I was informed that he was, I asked that he be told to telephone me the next morning and invite me physically. Early the next morning, my friend called to invite me. I began to prepare for the teaching. Before I left for my friend's reservation and the ceremony, I made my own ceremony. The ceremony at my friend's house was attended by about 20 people. I knew one, but my friend and his family. I knew no one but my friend and his family. When the altar was made, the sacred pipe filled, the teaching tales were told. I knew they were described. What was I about to experience? A drum was brought in, the songs would be sung to invite spirit to dance with us. It was a ghost dance. with a steady heartbeat and the drum filling our ears and hearts and raising and falling cadence of the songs filling our minds, people rose and danced with spirit. I sat in silence and prayed. The drum and singing eventually faded to nothing, and all I could hear was the wings beating of the spirit eagle. It circled the room once and slammed into my chest. My eyes popped open in shock, and I grasped for air as the talons dug into my chest, tugging to lift me bodily. I hesitated and fought, but suddenly saw something before me that allied my fears. I let go and was lifted. I saw the whole house spinning upwards to the levels of the clouds. Then the house dropped back to the earth. I floated slowly, drifting over the Great Lakes, then across the Canadian plains, drifting slowly, turning southwards to the sacred Black Hills, heart of the Turtle Island and called North America. Above the central mountains I floated and rested. Winter faded, spring passed, and still I floated, laminating and yearning each reached me. I floated over the teaching mountain. Many native people were fasting for guidance. I smiled, happy at their earnestness. I heard a very old man asking to use the great power one more time. He explained that it was not to glorify himself, but to demonstrate to the people that such things still exist. I noticed that the world below me was bathed in the golden yellow light. Good, I thought. Finally, I can turn and see where it came from. Turning to look above myself, I saw only the darkness of deep space. I realized then I am the light. I turned to the house where my body was, and I entered to hear once more the singing and the beating of the drum. I still perceived the golden yellow light, but when I entered body, I still seemed to be floating. I was looking down at everyone from the height of the ceiling. I made my body settle on the floor. When I touched it, the drums and singing stopped. The next morning, the helpers teased me that perhaps all medicine people should learn to meditate so they can levitate too. This happens in Yuipi ceremonies. Yuipi ceremony is to call in spirits. They can come as spirit creatures or as spheres of light. The man that conducts the ceremony is tied hand and foot, wrapped in a star quilt, and this is also bound tightly. When the lights are turned back on after the ceremony, the man has been untied by the spirits. Some men have been found at this time to be floating bodily up at the ceiling. However, not all that try this today get untied, let alone float. The significance of finding the source of spiritual light cannot be easily grasped from the body state alone. It is the journey to the lodge of the sun, of which the teaching tales speak. It is one of the piercings of the realms of being. The certainty does not make us as gods. It is the revelation of our own spiritual being, the ability to generate light. This does not contradict any religion. It is like higher self. Buddha said that when you see the earth with the eye of the sun, you begin to understand. It was after this I discovered that we ourselves might fly as spheres of light. The hue of light represents the quality of our medicine and the path. Since I had gone to the center, I encountered the meaning of symbols. The colors of spheres represent the type of awareness the person had. In my youth vision atop the mountain, I was told about the spheres of light, but did not see them. At the time, assumed that they were symbolic of something. I was to learn that they are very real. 6 of them came into the sweat lodge. They were each about 2 inches across and fully 3-dimensional spheres. They were beautiful to see as they flew around the lodge singing. Sometimes after the teaching, the sun shining on the earth, the friend whose house was used approached me for guidance. I had him stay overnight. We smoked the pipe together. Later I prayed in seclusion. I saw what he would dream, and asked at the same time for guidance for myself, to understand more of what was happening to me. Then perhaps I could help others better. I found myself at my sweat lodge, New Life Lodge. floating as a free spirit. I looked it over and saw that everything was fine. It was in the area owned by a provincial conservative authority, so hikers might one day wander by, but it was in a corner, not easily accessible. One had to climb 100-foot cliff or walk a mile from the road to get to it. I decided to go see what grandfather was up to. Then I found myself at Fool's Crow's place in South Dakota. I had visited him several times a year, camping on the prairies behind his house. Now I was looking in from above the house as though the roof was transparent. He was saying that this night he would hold a ceremony, but first he was going to use the great powers for the people to understand that they still exist. I determined to stay. I wandered around the reserve checking on friends. I saw a friend at the evening powwow with a young Japanese man. The Japanese man said he wanted to use the payphone, and as he walked into the hallway, he passed a clock that read 8:30. I followed, and in the hall 4 young men were about to jump him and knife him because one lost an uncle in Vietnam. To them, Oriental was close enough for revenge. I went back to my friend and whispered in his ears to go help his friend in the hallway. I then went back to Fool's Crow's place, where the ceremony was about to begin. I floated in the room watching. I knew that about 100 feet away in the teepee sat my body. I ignored it. I did not understand yet, and would only be confused. During the ceremony, a young boy began to stare at me, and he was deeply wondering. I decided to sit next to him. It seemed as though my body suddenly materialized just behind him. I edged forwards into the circle. He smiled as he made room for me. When the ceremony was done and everyone stood to stretch, I simply returned to where my body was laying in bed. Before entering it, I wondered how I appeared when I flew in spirit. I saw myself as a sphere of light and saw also the colors I generated. Then I entered body and was awakened in body. It was early morning. When my friend awoke, he told me his dream. It was as I had seen it would be. About 6 months later, when I was visiting Fool's Crow, my Lakota friend arrived with a young Japanese man. My body began to tremble, then to shake. This was a journey I had taken. I tried to control my shaking. When I tried to split some wood for the fire, I nearly chopped off my own foot and had to stop and go off alone. Fool's Crow attended the function held at a nearby native college. When he sang and prayed, great raging thunderstorms came racing in. They filled half the sky in an arc and sat there against the breeze, motionless. Hour after hour, they barraged the earth with sheets of roaring orange lightning. People were afraid, but knew that the great powers still exist. My body periodically shook violently. My friend invited me to go to the powwow with them, and that evening I looked at him in the eyes and said, "If you plan to be around your friend at 8:30, I will not go, but if you plan to wander off anywhere, I will go." He looked at me strangely, but said nothing. Being Lakota, he is used to mysterious things. When they returned later on, they said that at 8:30, 4 guys tried to jump the Japanese guy, but a voice had whispered in my friend's ear, and he helped him in time. My friend looked intently into my eyes to see if I would say anything, but I was silent. As soon as they left, my body shook again. I sat in the borrowed teepee, though several people had asked me to come into the ceremony. After the ceremony, a young boy, the first to come out of the house, he came straight to the teepee and sat down. "You were here the whole time, weren't you?" he asked. "Yes." "And yet you sat next to me in the ceremony." "Yes, but don't tell." As far as I know, he never said anything. Later on, I gave him a treasured hunting knife that I had kept for 19 years. His mother said that she would bead the scarab and he would dance with it. I knew that if I attended the ceremony that day, my spirit would be there. My body shook from the sure knowledge that there really is another me, and that it was in the same physical time and place. This was too real, too immediate. My mind my mind just could not bend to encompass this stone teaching. Obviously, some sort of time projection was also involved. It was not just me traveling around in my own time. In the Far East, they say there are cases of mystics being bodily in two places at once. This must be how it is done there as well. This cast of fresh light is understanding on previous experiences. When I had traveled to the Buffalo Plains, the old man who had said he was my teacher was real. I somehow knew that, but the impact now hit me fully. It was in a place where the manifestation and ethereal met that I talked to the old man, attended Fool's Crow ceremony, and flew as a sphere of light. It was truly real. I have spoken to people from different nations or tribes. A Mohawk woman told me that as a young girl she saw the spheres almost nightly. She said that people generally knew that they were spirits or living mystics checking on things. She also recalls a Christian teacher said that this evil witchcraft, as a consequence, the next generation began to fear the old ways and mystic spirituality. When you pray, you sometimes see flashes of light. You say that sometimes is just looking in when the spheres come. They are three-dimensional and of very pure light. At the teaching mountain, they have been frequently seen. I spent several summers camping with my wife on a lonely part of the reserve in the Dakota. Across from our camp, a quarter-mile away, was a river. Beyond that, another quarter-mile was a buffalo jump. It was very high cliff that forms a sheer drop from the surrounding higher prairie. In the old days, hunters would stampede some of the buffalo off the cliff to provide meat, clothing, and shelter. Almost every night we watched the spheres for hours. They flew up and down the cliff and along the river. There was one place on the flats they seemed to favor, and we eventually learned this is where the people camped when they had a buffalo drive. I was wondering where to make a sweat lodge and would have liked to be near the river, though the water was alkaline. One night I dreamed of a lodge sitting on the bare prairie, and dozens of spirits were going in it. I built my lodge there. When it was time to mark the outline of where to plant the pole, I saw a perfect circle laid out in the grass, and a smaller perfect circle where the stone pit should be. The entryway was marked as well. All these things are about generating light. We might even drop body and fly as a sphere of light ourselves. This is star knowledge. We are star people. Star people are individual from any race or religion foundations who learn to generate light through their transcendence. Nations may know that the star knowledge about individuals are star people who recognize each other through the light they generate. Oh, you're all doing. I'm going to start chapter 3 here then. After that, I'll close her down for the day. Hopefully I don't take too long to read it. Number 3, red and black. The two roads are the same. They arrive at the same truth, two different ways. The two types of path that I talk about are generally the two types of people. The red road is what most people follow. It is the way of growing in harmony. Until in old age we require wisdom and spirituality of the grandfather. In this way we grow in light and harmony, cultivate spiritual abilities. These might include lucid or prophetic dreams, seeing, and ceremony. The formalized black road is that the mystic practitioner or so-called medicine man. Really, we each are people of medicine, but some are called upon to demonstrate greater uses of the same power. This is the thing. It is all the same power. It is the inherent ability to generate light and to live in harmony. Before I begin to explain symbols, I have to say something. Medicines are in the understanding. Certain symbols carry meanings. It's easy to get too deeply involved in the meaning of symbols. It is too easy to forget the important thing is the ability to dream of the symbol at all. Dreams are in the realm of the moon. We can do many things in dreams. We can even help or harm others in dreams. Dreams are but the reflection of power of living in the sunlight, spiritual awareness. The moon generates no light of its own. It merely reflects sunlight back to us through the dark realms of sleep and unknowingness. The sun's reality is to take journeys beyond flesh. The moonlight reality is but a dream that you take a journey. At first, it might seem that the dream comprised ceremonial events. Ceremony is a consciousness. Idly, we should be able to just enter the fundamental consciousness when we choose, but we are not living ideal. So ceremony seems to be the reality where cosmic meaning and literal fact match perfectly. That is to say, the object and ritual used to evoke the meaning they inherit embody. So when you perform the ritual in a time-test way, the desired results must come. There is no sense in trying to Sundance unless you first know how to properly attend sweat lodge ceremony. It is like trying to win a Grand Prix with a soapbox car you nailed together one night in your garage. Until the time when I asked for and received an eagle feather, I used no objects, yet the consciousness that I share with my teacher was ceremonial. Certainly, mystics around the world have ceremonies and rituals. In every way, it is known that we eventually surpass the need of ritual and object. Jesus taught his way to mysticism to the apostles and seems not to use rituals at all. He usually just healed. Some people have greatly misunderstood the Black Road. It is a long period of emotional seclusion wherein practitioners concentrate on mystic revelations. That is all. Some people have said to me that they sometimes fall off the red road onto the black one. They mean they have lost their way for a while. They seem to think the black road is an evil thing, but it is not. The black road is the journey through the spiritual darkness while seeking the higher light. It is the path of the mystic seeking enlightenment. No one makes an arbitrary choice to walk the black road. It is not a career move. You do not choose it. You are chosen for it. The red and the black, the two roads are the same thing, seeking harmony and light. How the two paths get together is different. On the black road, you wander the cosmos in search of the rising sun. On the red road, you step out of the teepee and you look up. It is the same truth, arrived at two different ways. I want to point out something. When you acquire and live in the harmony of the second fire teachings, all of your acts will be in accord with the Great Spirit, the Spirit of all things, the Holy Spirit, breath of God. This is the degree of holiness. Lakota Sioux say Wakan. This is two words. Kan means something like pure, ethereal being, spiritual being, otherworldly. Wa means something like the quality of being able to do something or achieve something with an object, idea, or manifesting things. Together, they more literally mean can do something with ethereal nature. But Wakan is usually translated as meaning holy. When someone is becoming more spiritually aware, that people might begin to refer to him or her as a Wakan person. Wiskas Wakan. The same truth applies to all levels. We participate with spirit in all things, which is really like the Creator's reflected through creation. We are also an integral part of the whole, one truth, on different levels of awareness and understanding. Symbolism is old as creation. There is a consciousness where symbolic value and literal reality match perfectly. This is what I call ceremonial consciousness. You do not need objects or rituals to enter the state. Once you know the consciousness, you can begin to try to establish your entry into it. The purpose of the time-tested ritual and ceremonies is to help us acquire the feeling of this consciousness. Particular songs serve the same purpose. When a buffalo medicine man sings for healing, it is very different than when a grizzly man sings for healing. Yet both sing for healing. That particular tone or hue or conscious flavor, the mood, the two consciousnesses enter are not unlike each other in basic substance. The different medicine ways of the singers give the mood, hue, and feeling. If these two men each would fly as spheres of light one day, they would generate different colors of hues of light, yet they would each generate a pure light. When you conduct ceremony in a similar consciousness, changes come. Yet during one man's ceremony you hear spirit eagles crying out and feel the wind as they beat their wings near you. In another man's ceremony you hear grandfather buffalo come in with the four stately but earthly shaking thudding steps. One basic similarity is the ethereal things are perceived. The one conducting the ceremony probably receives his power, each of which is control of his aspect of consciousness during a vision quest. Everyone in the ceremony perceives the spirit coming because they really do come and really exist. The ceremony opens you to better perceive ethereal reality. This gives rise to ritual and ceremonial objects. One man might be given a pipe to use, and so he always uses it. If another tries to copy his pipe or ritual, they can be harmed or harm those attending. They do not have the vision that empowers the ceremony. Some ceremonies are more generally used. The basics of different ceremonies are the same, but individuals can have particular medicines they use. This individualizes the ceremony. I have already mentioned the symbols of fire, and everything in creation has symbolic or cosmic meaning. The resources of understanding meaning, the symbols, is golden yellow light of the center. Meanings become clear in the moment of illumination. All meaning becomes clear for an instant. Gradually these meanings filter down into the body's state and slowly make body reality a more spiritual thing. Meanings become incorporated into daily living as we become more adept at reaching spiritual awareness. We can slowly begin to interpret dreams and visions. Not every pipe keeper or medicine man can interpret symbols accurately. Not only can this be applied to Native American symbols, but also to biblical symbols to explain meaning. I will indicate a direction which one can follow on one's own. All of the creatures, plants, weather, and natural phenomena have a symbolic meaning. The spiritual medicine man is revealed. It is not intellectual thought up. It is based on who and what the baby will one day become. The holy man prays and even fasts. The name is revealed. Until then, he knows nothing about that little boy to be named. He might see the spiritual path that a child will one day take, and some of the accomplishments that will be life achievements. From this, the name is revealed. He might just know that this person is to be named Crazy Wolf, meaning acting differently, not insane. That the baby will one day have a vision of a wolf teacher and follow his medicine way. This is revealed. Non-natives often ask for an Indian name, but lots do not even know the right way to ask. But their ego wants a name and to belong. They often get a social teasing name. Natives get this as well, but natives have the spiritual name as a great meaning also. One white man came from Austria and wanted an Indian name. He did not follow the sacred path and was not in a native fundamental earth awareness. Everyone knew that he liked to travel around the world a lot, so he was named in the Indian language. White man who likes to travel around a lot. He thought it sounded just fine for the native language and practiced saying it. We say our sacred names rarely, perhaps in prayer. In ordinary times, each person had their own name because they had their own path through life and things to achieve. You might have someone named Red Dog, who was the son of two bears, son of thunder watching. Each person had their own name, which describes their spirit character, medicines, the cosmic role in the scheme of things. Both a public and private name could be given. The direction I want your attention to turn is this. Dream the symbols can be interpreted because they reflect back to us a hint of sunlight reality where meaning and fact match perfectly. I call this state ceremonial consciousness. Everything comes back to the center. Everything flows out from the center. The pipe ceremony involves gesturing to each direction, offering smoke. In addition to the four cardinal directions, we might include that which is above us and which is below us. The one offering a pipe is, of course, at the center of these. The sweat lodge is round like the horizon. The entrance faces east when comes the light of day and warmth. It signifies revelations of light. For those who walk the formalized black road, the entrance faces west, whence gathers the darkness awaiting dawn's illumination. The teepee is round at the base. It signifies the horizon and the eternal circle. The Sundance Lodge is also round. On Vision Quest, one makes a circle to fast within, or marks the direction into the some way. In all these cases, we are within the circle of the horizon, and thus also the direction. We are standing at the center of all we see, but are at the center of this eternal renewal. At ceremonial functions, there can be softened soil. When the sweat lodge is made, a shallow pit is dug to hold the white-hot stones. The soil from the pit is softened up, and the stones and twigs and roots are moved. This is mellowed earth, softened and ready to receive a seed. It symbolizes that before entering spiritual undertakings, we are to make ourselves as like mellow earth, ready to receive the seed of spiritual awareness and light to grow within us. At the sweats, the soil is made into a mound 3 or 4 feet before the entrance of the lodge. Between the lodge and the fire that heats the stones in the teepee, there could be mellowed earth just west of the fire. Between the principal man of the lodge and the fire, this was usually in the square or rectangular shape. This is also at Sundance. The shape signifies the unused earth forces and something called skan, S-K-N, pronounced shkan. Medicine people can draw upon this unused power or energy. It is refreshing energy that helps purify us. Confusion can enter in when you ask someone for guidance. If you ask a good person who is rather holy, that person might suggest what you should do. In native social ways, it might even seem that he or she is commanding you, but this is a suggestion. Everyone has free choice, and you can choose to ignore their advice or go elsewhere. If someone says that you must have a certain thing to be in accord with their medicines, perhaps it will make you feel comfortable, then do not do it. Perhaps you do not belong in accord with the person's medicine. Also, when you ask someone for guidance or spiritual help, they cannot ask you for money or even hint for gifts. This is spiritual law. Spiritual power is given to help others, and one cannot make a condition of that help to be any personal gain. Some people can put a thought into your head. You suddenly just want to buy them a washing machine or pay to fix their car. Wait at least 4 days to see if it was really your idea. With discernment, you can tell, but do this intentionally is to abuse the spiritual abilities, bad medicine. When you seek advice, guidance, or healing, the only thing you give is a little bit of tobacco. If you acquire healing for illness or bad medicine, the Holy One might ask you to bring certain things inherent to the ritual, such as cloth of the 4 colors, and perhaps to bring a little bit of food for the feast afterwards. But many could bring food for a potluck dinner. Someone in great and urgent need sometimes sends a pipe or an eagle feather to the Holy One for help, particularly if they are all ill to travel and see him personally. If you have a good experience and afterwards feel like showing gratitude, you might get a blanket for the old man so he survives the winter more easily. Perhaps you want to get him a bag of groceries. That is also fine. Most of the holy men give these things away later on to the poorer people. You should not feel offended if the holy man later on gives away the present that you gave him. He had the pleasure of receiving it once. You had the happiness of giving it. The holy man wants someone else to have the joy of receiving the blanket or gun or whatever you gave him. When Grandpa Foolscrow invited me to stay with him, we finally reached consensus on how that would work. Since I had several things to accomplish, I believed that people would assume that he helped me to do them if I was living with him. So I said I would rather wait until I achieved these things and no one would get confused about it shortly after I attended his ceremony in spiritual form. He asked me again and I accepted. Since he asked me to come live with him, he also said that I would live with him right in his house and that he would support me. In the past, some had come to ask if they could camp on the nearby prairies and once in a while come to the house to talk to him. Those who did this supported themselves. Grandpa treated me as any member of the family and even bought me cigarettes once in a while. He went out of his way to buy me good quality used clothes and shoes and a nice black hat. The food that I ate was partly offset by being added to the list of his dependents for the monthly food allotment called commodities. At the time, each person was given enough food for about a week and a half of eating. The canned meat was of such poor quality that most cans of dog food looked better. The tins of lard were given to cook and with only added to the problems of white flour noodles and white sugar we received. The powdered eggs were mostly edible, but the cheese was full of coloring and chemicals. Yet it is survival. On the res, people joke when they have a fat middle that they have commode bod, a commodity body. It is a good idea to be careful about which gifts you accept or keep. Sometimes a gift is given to you, you begin to have dreams. There is a potential the gift is the vehicle through which someone's bad wishes to influence you. Gradually you find yourself doing things you might otherwise not have considered. You begin to feel a blind loyalty to the gift giver. Then you are their dog. To take discernment to judge this, it happens all around the world. In the end, each person is on their own unique path. You do not borrow symbols from others. You do not copy ceremonies. You will hear people say that they follow an old man's medicine. They might even say they are under his medicine. This is not necessarily a good thing. In general, true spiritual people merely point you in the right way so that you can follow your path. Each person has their own path through life. We all walk over the face of the earth. Some will cross rivers, some will climb mountains, some will wander the dry places. We have the skies and weather in common, loneliness and human mortal conditions. But each walk is unique. You can ask others how to climb mountains, but you still have to do it really to know what it is like and what is up there. Your particular climb will be different than anyone else's. Where others go right, you may go left. Likewise, in medicine, someone teaches you for a little while. You go onwards with the new knowledge. The experiences are yours alone. For this reason, native philosophy, one of the non-interventions. You let someone struggle through their obstacles because it is a will of testing them to make them stronger. On your walk, You will encounter both good and evil people. In my dream vision, I saw people in different places. Some became instant, deep relatives, family or life, for life and beyond. Others were enemies who wanted me dead. On your walk, you might meet the trickster. You can, he can look like a little boy, a young woman, or an old man. This is someone who seems good, but is really evil and out to harm you. It can be anyone. This is the subject of the false face masks. The masks look like a happy, smiling face. You like to see it when a dancer wears it. When they dance near you, they trip the string and the mask swings open in two parts. This reveals the ugly, evil face hidden behind the smiling one. So when you ask someone for help or guidance, they can offer advice that even sounds like a command. You have free choice to accept or reject their advice. Listen to your inner feelings, reach into your clear center. This is not voice of reason, but gut level intuition. Live the harmony and the fire teachings. You will hear this inner voice more clearly. I have dreamed about my objects, pipes, rattles, dreams. I have not done anything about them. They are dream symbols. Some people rush right out and try to make the object in the physical realm. I know of one man who saw someone use a lance in a dream. It wasn't even his own lance. So he tried to make one in the manifest and he got seriously hurt. Many people get caught up in objects, rituals, customs, and important things happen in clear ways. When the world fills with golden light, you are fully in body and also in the ethereal. It is real. When you climb the mountain to pray and the eagle flies circles around you, screaming out in joy, it is real. When you go to sleep and you dream about eagles, it is symbolic. When you try to journey somewhere and then interact with people, it can be real. Those people recall interacting with you. I have had conversations with people in this way and in body. Those other people recall the whole talk. Just because you talk to someone in the Indian way does not mean they are a good person. I should be getting close to the end of this chapter. Hopefully, you're enjoying this. I was once sent to establish whether a certain couple were corrupt in their conduct with spirit. It came a faster seeking visions they offered to guide me. I should have been the one to ask them to guide me. They did not even come close to proper spiritual behavior and could hardly wait to get me into their ceremony. I can appear very unknowledgeable about spirit when I choose to do so. They saw nothing in me to be alarmed about. In the sweat, they tried to get me to smoke my pipe with them. Though it was already sealed for the fast, the man wanted an excuse to refill it with his own things. I played dumb and stubborn. They wanted me to sing my personal medicine song so the spirits will recognize you are the one to help. That is such bullshit. I almost laughed out loud. If the spirits can't find you, they are pretty dumb spirits. When the man later took me up the mountain, he did not stop to rest the ceremonial 3 times. He just stopped any time he wanted, about 9 times. At a place I chose, he asked me where my altar should be. If he was any good, he would have known. So I told him the direction of my altar, and he put it at the wrong place and refused to move it. Then he produced a bunch of things he said his wife made as offerings to the spirits. They were awful things, full of bad medicine. I knew this was going to be a fun fasting. He turned to go, and I asked him if he was going to sing the sacred song to make the circle around me. He was not even going to do that. He said to watch all around. Something would come and guide me soon. I looked around the fasting circle and remained unaffected. I held my show pipe, one elaborately carved with my medicine on it. It did not matter. Back in my tent was my original medicine pipe sealed in a sacred way, and I was really fasting under it. They couldn't do anything they wanted. It would not touch me. Soon there was a deer standing nearby. It was in the open and I should have seen it approach. It had just suddenly appeared. I pointed the stem of the pipe at it and demanded that it tell me its name or identify itself as being of light. It refused, and I told it that therefore it must cease to help that couple and do any good things, or be returned instantly to the forever, to the void. It shook its head violently towards the couple and snorted at them. Then it looked at me once and was gone forever. A novice would have thought they were being blessed by the appearance of a deer. I picked up my things and I left the circle. The couple asked why I was back early, and I did not even bother to answer them. They asked if the deer came to me, and when I said that it did, they smiled broadly, beaming. Then I said that it shook its head and snorted at them. They were in shock. They had lost their spirit helper. Such things go on sometimes all around the world. We are supposed to use our own way. The one who abuses power are not everyone, but you only need to meet one to be in serious trouble. I did not receive my ceremony until I had been learning from 16 years. Then it came at the hand of 6 medicine men, each a master at one medicine way. The ceremony may have seemed long in coming, but it is my ceremony. There are ceremonial songs. I have never tried to learn them. In the sweat lodge I prayed the whole time. If I wanted to sing, I reached out in consciousness and commanded with the man conducting the ceremony. Some were shocked when I did this. They knew right away, but I knew the song as well as they did. We shared one consciousness. No one refused when they felt that I was what I was doing, because they also felt that I was all about and knew that. When I began to conduct sweat lodges myself, I could suddenly sing songs as well as my own personal song. Eventually, my experience took me to a place where I felt the song of the star people inside me. From this, a song came. It has no words, but vocables. But for 36 years, I have no song. I did not rely upon songs to change consciousness. The song is to help us acquire the consciousness. It is a mood and a feeling. It is better to acquire the consciousness than to know all the songs on earth. The songs are to help along the way. The objects can be to help. The canoe can be a great help in crossing the vast river before entering the great deserts. When you have crossed the river, you need not drag the canoe across the desert with you. It has served its purpose. Let it go. Look ahead. Keep walking. New wonders await you. So I was going to tell you about the symbols, but there is a lot to clear up. The realms of dreams belong to the moon. The light from the moon is but a reflection of the sunlight hidden from us by the position of the earth. The moon has no light of its own. Dreams have no awakening of their own. They reflect back to us through symbols some hints of sunlight reality. Sunlight reality would be that when you are out somewhere praying, an eagle lands right beside you and you have a telepathic talk. Reality could be that the rattlesnake curls up by you while you smoke your pipe, then calmly slithers away when you are done. Dreams are to go to sleep and see things. This is symbolic. Sunlight reality is that when a child is dying, a holy one prays and the child is happy and playing in just moments. Moonlight would be to have everyone picture the color blue while someone waves crystals and other objects over someone to realign their energies. There is some indirect sunlight reflected through that somehow. It is like weak moonlight compared to the bright sunlight. Some people prefer to follow the moonlight in the hope that it leads us to the rising sun. I do not believe that it does. So tomorrow I will start at part 4, chapter 4. So I hope you enjoyed that. What do you think? Has it given you answers or made you think deeper? How do you feel?